The Celtic Story is a smash hit theatre production that charts the unique history of the famous Celtic Football Club. First performed in 1988 as part of the iconic club's centenary celebrations, it returns to the stage with a brand new song penned specially for the show. Celtic did it first. The Celtic Story, from August 31st till September 16th at Glasgow's SEC Armadillo. Tickets available at ticketmaster.co.uk. Celtic crash out the cup to KILLIE, and we're here to discuss it. Welcome to this week's episode of 20 Minute Tims. I'm your host Jamie, and I'm joined by Stephen.
Nowhere I'd rather be.
Oh, definitely. And Melly.
Yes.
No Patreon, no plugging. We're going to get right into it because frankly that wasn't good enough, Melly.
No, it was terrible. The performance was dreadful, so boring to watch, and Celtic just didn't look like they were going to score. They were playing this tepid football that we'd seen once before under Rodgers, but you thought, look, this time it might be different. But Celtic just didn't look like they had a clue. They didn't create any chances, and it was just lacklustre.
You summed it up very well there, Jamie, because you said we're out of the cup. We've crashed out of the cup. So the idea that there are no consequences to this is frankly just incorrect. We are paying the price for a sluggish start to the season, and it's frankly not really good enough. It wasn't a good enough performance. There are ways to go out the cup where you just think, well, things just haven't gone their way. We've spoken so many times over the years about how Rodgers, obviously that's the first cup game he's won.
Yeah.
Sorry, the first cup game he's lost for Celtic, which is incredible in all this time. But there are ways where you sometimes, the nature of a cup competition means kind of anything can happen on the day. That's why you play in a cup. It's the romance in it. The underdogs can sometimes win. See if you go and play the way that we know Celtic can play, and we create chance after chance, and it just doesn't happen. We hit the post, it's whether they get a fluky goal, we get a penalty turned down, all that kind of stuff. If all that was the case, you would somewhat, I suppose, you wouldn't be happy, but I suppose to an extent you would hold your hands up and say, well, that happens. It's early in the season, we're trying to make a few transitional adjustments here to the team, to the system and all that, and we've come a cropper here. But with all that said, I think it was an unacceptable performance, to be honest.
Not only was it unacceptable, but it sort of like plays into the really low-key sort of start to the season that we've had. There's been, pre-season was very low-key, and we thought maybe it was this, maybe it was, the Celtic own media coverage of it. We went to Japan and that wasn't really a big deal, and we played it, and then it was kind of low-key. Brendan's return was played really low-key. It was really dragged out, Brendan's return, before we all knew it was happening before we heard from him. And then there's been no really massive signings that you could get behind. No signing that you're looking at that going off, he's going to excite us, he's really going to turn the team around. There's no signing that you've actually looked at and went, right, he's going to start every week, apart from maybe Narotsky when he joined. So it's run right into this, and you could. It's been coming. I know it sounds ridiculous 3 games in, but it has been coming. The performance against Ross County was really low key. You and I did the match reaction for it, Melly, and I remember saying it seemed like a team that needed signings. It seemed like early on in the season stuff. But looking back, the more I think about it, I think it shouldn't be like that. New manager, point to prove. He's got a team here that absolutely romped the treble last year. We should have came firing right out the traps, and we didn't. That was sluggish. Up to Aberdeen, you get the win, but again, the performance wasn't great. And then you go to Kilmarnock, and you can make every excuse you want about the plastic pitch and a team in transition. But the fact is that we've murdered Kilmarnock plenty of times in recent history. And I just don't understand it. I don't understand why things are so sluggish. And I'm sure as we talk in the podcast, we might stumble upon some ideas about why we think, have our own ideas about why we think it was so bad. But I'm just, Stephen, it's not good enough. I mean, Brendan Rodgers seems to have picked up where he left off in the worst possible way, because Brendan Rodgers started up here, and then his team started to dwindle and die, and then it's like he's came right back in, and we've got that sluggish, ponderous, side-to-side football. And the one thing I can't understand is, Melly, Brendan Rodgers inherited a machine that was winning games relentlessly, fast-paced, relentless attacking. He took over Ange Postecoglou's team now. Brendan Rodgers is coming in as a manager. He's going to bring his own style. That's what every football manager does, let alone Brendan Rodgers. He's not going to come in and do what Neil Lennon did after Brendan Rodgers and basically nurse Ange's team along. That's just not in his DNA. That's not what you expect. But I'm left wondering, going, why have you changed so much? Because from what we had to what we've got now is massive.
Yeah, it wasn't a smash and grab, was it? You can't say, Kilmarnock, they snatched it there.
Had more shots on target than us. We had 3, they had 4.
Celtic didn't look like scoring too many. I can't remember their keeper making too many saves. I can't remember too many chances. You thought, that was the one that we just missed it. But I think with the tactics, the formation, Celtic are sort of caught between two tactical styles here. While it was ponderous at the weekend, in previous games up at Aberdeen and the Ross County games, it has been more direct than usual. And while Celtic were slow on the ball, again at the game at the weekend, we were putting balls down the line for Maeda and Abada to run onto, and you're like, that's not really their game, is it? These guys are out there. They're no guys that pick up the ball, beat a player and get it across. So I think Celtic they're definitely in transition. They're caught between two formations, but all the players are built for a specific formation, for Ange's formation, and it's just not quite coming off. And look, I think we start to see that, look, this Celtic team was a brilliant team last year. They won the treble. The football they played was immense, but maybe they were better than the sum of their parts, because when you start to take out certain players, it kind of falls down, and it's those important players that we know, the guys like Carter Vickers, Jota, those guys, when you take the real quality out of the team, the rest of it starts to look really frail. And if guys like Cal McGregor don't perform and Kyogo doesn't get any chances created for him, the guy was dropping into left back at points, then you go, something's not right here.
But this is my question, Stephen. So say we take what Melly says is accurate, right, and I can pretty much get on board with that. So we've got Brendan Rodgers playing a style that he wants to play. Now, Brendan Rodgers came into the club and he says, I'm familiar with Celtic, I've watched them, won't take me long to analyse the players. So he must know what players can do what he wants them to do and what he can't want them to do. He must know what players can do what he wants and what players' limitations are. He must be well aware of that by now. He's probably aware of it within 3 weeks in the job. But the simple fact is, we're playing without Moy, Hatate and Jota for various reasons, right? We're relying on Abada and Maeda for creativity, which they know that's no their forte. That's not what they do.
No.
And Callum McGregor's playing in a position that leaves him isolated and easily marked out the pitch. We're playing with marauding fullbacks, and we know that's not what Ralston and Greg Taylor can do. So the question is, for me, what's Brendan doing?
It's a very broad but apt question, though, isn't it?
Or the alternative is, there's two questions, Stephen. Or Brendan might say, well, I'm playing the style that I said I would play, but I don't have the players to do it yet. Then my attention would then turn to the recruitment team and go, listen, you've signed a lot of exciting young players and we're happy about that, but it's no the players that can do what Brendan wants. So which is it?
Well, I get that, but I would throw that back at any manager trying to achieve something when he knows he doesn't have the tools to do it. And even at that, look, that we're just sort of broadly talking philosophically about the type of teams that get certain jobs done, but we can talk all we like about quality. We've not brought quality in the window, but what does that mean? Because
the manager said that was his exact words, funnily enough.
I don't dispute it, but the belief we always had was we need quality in for this crack at the Champions League. Does that qualify? Does it count if you're saying we need quality in to beat a Kilmarnock team or at Rugby Park? I don't buy that at all. I want to be clear about that. I'm not saying we have any divine right to win every single trophy in every single game, but
feels like we do.
It does. It has looked like that for the last couple of years, to be perfectly honest.
That's very true, and it's hard to separate Brendan Rodgers' 100% record of winning trophies at Celtic. Well, it's not the case now, but with what we're seeing just now, in many ways we do feel like we have a divine right to win trophies, but it's not the case. But my point is that while I'm not saying we should absolutely win at Kilmarnock every single time, this idea that we need to go out and spend 30-40 million in order to get that job done is absurd to me. I mean, we've got players there who should be able to beat Kilmarnock, and again, I say that not arrogantly. I don't say that as an entitled or typical old firm entitled fan and all that sort of stuff that you get from bum teams in this league, right? I'm genuinely not trying to make that point. I'm looking at the Celtic team and the manager and the resources there, and I just don't buy that we needed quality in earlier and all that to get a couple of decent performances.
Well, we had a team featuring almost the identical squad, including Kobayashi, who kind of get in Brendan Rodgers' team, beat Kilmarnock by 4 goals or 3 goals last year. It's like we have these players have beaten those teams before, and the problem Brendan Rodgers has got is it's very recent history. The team won the treble and now there's no chance of winning the treble. And I'm just so left looking at this formation because it's really out with the question that Brendan Rodgers would come in and just play Ange's way. But he seems to have changed so much, Melly. You know, as you say, we've gone very direct. There's a lot of side-to-side passing. The complete exclusion of Hatate for David Turnbull is honestly a mystery to me, because David Turnbull can't do things quick. He can't get on the half turn and push forward. I don't understand it, and And it's not an overreaction to losing the cup game itself, but it's something you said on the Reaction podcast, Stephen. We've seen this sort of thing before when teams don't work and we just go, I'll click into gear. I'll click into gear. You can't just expect everything's going to come good when performances, frankly, are that bad.
No, you can't, but at the same time, Rodgers in his first stint, Neil Lennon, Ange Postecoglou, all lost big games within their first 5 to 10 games. They all lost big games. It happens to enough every new manager coming in, and while Brendan Rodgers has been here before, it's 4 years, well, much longer than that since he was last here. So I think, look, yes, usually it's a big European game we lose, but this is one that's put us out the cup and on the back foot early doors, and you kind of did feel it was coming. But the thing with Brendan Rodgers is when he comes in, he is, I feel, an adaptable manager. So he came into that team after Ronnie Dylam that we're going to need to sell all these players, we're going to need to bring in 8, 9, 10 players. And he turned that team, brought in a couple of bits of quality and turned them into invincible treble winners. So he can do it, but I just don't know right now what he's trying to do. And I don't mean to say that he's a bad manager or that, but when Ange Postecoglou came in, we had some results at the start that were very inconsistent, but at the same time you could say, right, I can see what he's trying to do here. Maybe he doesn't have the blend yet, maybe he doesn't have the players in yet. We were bringing in a lot of players, we'd lost a lot of players. With this Brendan Rodgers right now, you're saying the fullbacks are marauding. I'm not sure if they are. I don't know if they're inverting or they're going on the outside, because it's kind of caught between the two. Are the wingers staying high and wide, or are they trying to come inside? I just don't know. The only thing that's clear is Kyogo's role, that he drops off deeper. With the rest, is it two alongside Cal McGregor and another, or is it Cal McGregor with two in front? I'm not quite sure. And I like to think I watch a lot of football and you can say, right, this is what's happening. I'm just not seeing it now. And the most alarming thing for me is when Celtic last season, or in the last 2 seasons, got a goal kick, it was fast paced, we got the ball down and we got it out and we tried to get at teams. Right now we don't look like we have a clue how to get out. It goes to the centre halves and it doesn't look like people know where to be. Before, we knew we had 3 players in front. Right now, we're putting ourselves under a lot of pressure. A lot of time we're easily pressed by teams like Ross County and Kilmarnock, and I'm just not sure where it's going. That's not to say it won't. I think still Brendan Rodgers can go on and have a very successful season. I think he can go on and get Celtic into a winning machine, but we need things to settle down and we need to see a clear style of play soon, because in 2 weeks' time we've got Rangers, then after that it's back into league games and the Champions League starts.
See the clear style of play thing, I totally agree on that, but I would settle just now for, before we identify some sort of clear style of play, for everyone to not look worse than they did last season. Now that's, again, I want to try and strike some sort of balance here, because I know that to get the team fully firing and in Brendan's image, it's going to take time. It's going to take this transfer window, probably another one. I mean, I know people are kind of running about on fire a wee bit, kind of talking about this quality coming in and we need signings in. There's only, as we record this, 10 days left of the window. I think we can forget that the team is going to be the finished article inside this transfer window. I think we've left it far too late for that. And
is that good enough though?
No, it's not. Well, no, it's not. But I suppose that no team is ever really the finished article, because the next transfer window will bring about, we need this. That's the ideal scenario. You should be replacing your weak links every window you go into. I know sometimes that's not how it works.
I would dispute that. I would go against that, because what I would say was that's okay if there's a lot of work to be done.
Right.
But we know, and Ange spoke previously about how you're playing Jenga this window. It's about a bit of quality coming out and a bit of quality coming in. And this whole chat about quality was started by the manager, because Brendan Rodgers had 3 separate interviews, as far as I could tell, for Viaplay, BBC and someone else at a press. It might have been just a written press. And in all 3 interviews he said quality's gone out the door and we need quality to get in the door, or a variation on that theme. So it's Brendan Rodgers talking about the quality here, and I don't know if he's... Melly had a very good press conference one-on-one with Brendan Rodgers this week when he asked him about how the signings work. And Brendan Rodgers has always been at great pains to explain how good the scouting and all that is. But where are they? And you're just saying you'd be surprised if, we don't do it all in the major window. I mean, how many players really are we asking for here to get back on top? We lost Jota, so we need a winger. If Brendan wants a left back, shouldn't it be too hard to get him a left back?
Goalkeeper.
If he wants a goalkeeper, it shouldn't be too hard to go get him a goalkeeper. I'm aware that we've brought in other players and it remains to be seen how much they're going to feature. But if Brendan wants a Jota replacement, whether that's I don't know, Podence at Wolves, for talking sake, someone at that level, we should be able to go out and buy one. And I hear everyone, and I see all the comments when we talk about this in the Discord. The most of the top players have come in at the last days of the window. Yeah, that's all we've got left. That's all we're banking on right now, is that the last days of the window we're going to see all this quality come in. For me, there's no reason why we couldn't have been signing bits of quality throughout the window. We went out and signed Narovsky, $5.5 million. There's no denying that guy was bought to play and bought as a bit of quality.
Yeah, I suppose it's two sort of forks here. We have a bark here.
Two forks?
Yeah, two forks.
How many roots is that?
Two forks of it attached to a handle.
Jesus. Are we at crossroads?
Yeah, it's
a double roundabout.
It's two arms. That's better. It's two arms of the same subject.
Right.
Okay. So what we're really talking about, see, when you talk about Ange talking about Jenga last season and losing quality and adding quality in to replace that, he's not in possession of the full facts because he's no longer at the club. He's not talking about in August when we've just shit the nest to Kilmarnock and go out of the club. I'm not talking about Ange's team losing Jota and Starfelt and Moy and whoever else. We've got injuries just now as well, but we'll come to that. They won't be out forever, but those players that are permanently gone, we needed to replace those. But I'm not looking at Ange's team and saying we need to replace those guys. I'm watching the team on the pitch against Kilmarnock and saying, you look terrible. So we don't need a replacement for Jota only. We need that anyway. But we now need at least 3 fullbacks. We need probably 2 wingers. We need an attacking midfielder. We need a second striker. We need a goalkeeper based on that nonsense that was served up against Kilmarnock. That's what I'm talking about when I say this won't be fixed in one window, because we won't get to a point where we've signed all this quality in the summer window, get to January and we think, we're fine, don't bother signing anyone. That's why I say it won't all be done in the one window, but we need something in there.
We need Hatate back in the team. We're sitting here saying we need an attack midfielder. It is a mystery to me how Hatate can't get back now.
He's injured. He's injured just now.
Well, there you go. Yes. Brilliant.
But your point is still valid, because he didn't start either of the other 2 games as well. So
rescued me.
So you're welcome. I'm getting slagged for my fork analogy.
I'm demanding injured players.
Swooping in to rescue everyone here. Now, Hatate is a separate issue as well, because you think, well, he is injured and wouldn't have been starting this game anyway, but he hasn't started in favour of Turnbull so far. And Turnbull, he scored a couple of goals in the first game of the season, but he's been fairly anonymous since. Didn't justify starting the last game and came on and made the game worse against Kilmarnock. So I'm trying not to just start wailing about this, right? I'm starting not to get carried away, but there is a general feeling that I'm unable to fully articulate just now, because we joked about it in pre-season about how, this is all a bit low-key, isn't it? It all feels a wee bit kind of not right. And then we saw the Ross County game, it was okay. We beat Ross County, it was fine. Aberdeen, it was okay. We beat Aberdeen, it was fine. And then we lose to Kilmarnock in the first properly important game of the season. Yeah, the league's more important than the League Cup, but we can't walk this back now. We can't fix going out of the Cup. So it has led to a general sort of malaise around the club just now. I think the excitement has very quickly popped. The excitement balloon has popped very early.
Inflated?
Well, no, probably not. No, so it's
there
not so
was
much
one person that was excited. It was that wee woman that said to Brendan Rodgers, "God bless you, Brillington." Okay. And then at that point, it was done.
But again, I am aware that I'm wetting the bed a little bit, probably in some people's eyes. But I appreciate that it's going to take time to instill a style of play. But what we have just now is not the changing of a style of play. What we have just now is the removing of a style of play with nothing really. There's no plan, but there's no discernible plan. And it shouldn't happen that while we're getting used to this, things aren't quite clicking. So people aren't maybe picking each other up. The centre halves aren't quite used to each other yet. The angles aren't being made by the midfield. Nobody's dropping it. All those things can happen when you're changing a system. But what it doesn't extend to, in my opinion, is everybody looking worse. Yeah. So we've started this style of play that makes Callum McGregor look like the last 2 years hasn't happened, where he's played the football of his life. We've got Greg Taylor looking like he was when he was in his first 3-4 months, when he couldn't get his place back off Johnny Hayes or Bolingoli. That's what he looks like just now. What are the reasons for that? Because those are things that we should not expect to happen just because we're tweaking the style of play a little bit.
Public service announcement. Attention all my bearded troops out there from Stubble to Maine. If you didn't already know, Manscaped now sells beard products. You heard that correctly. The leaders in below the waist grooming changed the game with their Beard Hedger Pro Kit. And now they're going a step further with their brand new Handyman, an electric face shaver for quick and convenient way to achieve a clean shaven look. Whether you're going to sharpen up your neckline or give your face a smooth finish, the Handyman has got you covered. Go to manscaped.com and use code TIMS for 20% off and free shipping. It's time to go from 5 o'clock shady. Yeah, baby.
No one likes a weird beard, so say goodbye to all your stubble trouble with Manscaped's Beard Hedger. The Beard Hedger is a high-tech piece of art in a travel-size package with a long-lasting battery, universal charging and a strong motor. Your face is your first impression and your beard is your most important accessory. So make sure you have the right tool for the job with the Beard Hedger. Looking for something, dare I say, smoother? Look no further than Manscaped's new Handyman Face Shaver.
Hey, Stephen.
Yes, Jamie?
You've got a travel size package. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code TIMS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code TIMS. Hit the refresh button with Manscaped. Brendan Rodgers was asked about this specific thing that Stephen brings up. Do the players need a bit of time to get used to it? And Brendan said, no, they don't need a bit of time to get used to it. We've had pre-season, we've had a training camp away, we've had all our pre-season games, and we're now into the league. So Brendan himself rubbish this idea that the players need a bit of time. He just says they need to show more personality, they need to step up, they need to win their duels, which is easy to say, but to me it just looks a bit confused, as you said.
Yeah, again, it's just nothing seemed to drop right for Celtic. But I'll always say, right, why is that? So why is there not players in the positions that Kilmarnock players are? Why are they picking up second balls? Why every time do we lose the ball do we look like we can be got at? Because look, it's not as sitting here saying, see, under Ange we never conceded a chance, we never played poorly. There was loads of games where we didn't play great, but when we did play well, we played really well. And right now you're looking at this going, right, how's it going to get better? Because is there going to be a way we can all of a sudden find, right, Greg Taylor, do this instead and everything will be okay? Because at some point, if we do bring in a left back, you're still taking the risk that this left back will work out and be better than Kieran Tierney. If it was Kieran Tierney, hopefully. But if it's somebody like, remember we brought in Bolingoli and Taylor, and you thought, right, that's fine, we should be shorted at left back. They were both gashed to start with. So
we've spent $4.5 million on a guy for Argentina, and he's no better than Greg Taylor, apparently. No. I suppose there's some players who I'm not done with, right? Because that is, it's quite harsh, right, to say you're done with a player, but I'm done with certain players doing certain jobs, right? Anthony Ralston's, I'm finished with him. I know he's done well, right, for Anthony Ralston, and he really kicked on, but I can't watch Anthony Ralston play right back for Brendan Rodgers' Celtic team. As Stephen says, there's players that are just not capable of doing this stuff. Liel Abada is not, I don't know, Liel Abada is the most peculiar footballer I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Chronic, but scores hundreds of goals. Explain that. Somebody explain that to me. Make it make sense.
I know.
I don't get it. But he can't beat a man. He can't cross a ball. His awareness seems to be switched off. Maeda. I love Maeda, right? And he was brilliant for what Ange. But Brendan Rodgers has decided to take this guy and not use him for what he's brilliant for. So it's like the first day of training. Ange is like, what do you do? Brendan's asking the players, what do they do? Maeda goes, I'm a pressing machine. I close guys down. I force errors. I make mistakes and I feed the striker. Right, forget all that. We're going to have you playing traditional winger and we want you to try and get crosses in. You're like, well, that's not what I do. Then sell him then. Give him a new contract. Sell him and bring someone else in that can.
Yeah, Rodgers obviously signed off on the contract extension, but with the two wide players, well, I presume so. He's the manager of the club, isn't he? He's going to be working. It doesn't make sense to pay Brendan Rodgers a lot of money, then just say...
I was being facetious, to be honest. Sorry.
But anyway, the two wide players, I can't keep doing it every time, but every time they start, there's a lack of creativity. Every single time they start together, there's a complete lack of creativity. It's been like that since they've both been at the club, and it's going to continue to be
needs
like
to start ahead of Abada, doesn't he?
Yeah, probably, but again, is he the answer? I'm not too sure. Yes, he looks positive, but he also runs himself into a lot of trouble and gets the ball taken off him quite easily. Long term, is Yang the answer? I don't think so right now, but when I'm looking at the players, like Maeda, what's he brilliant at? Pressing. What's Kyogo brilliant at? Probably everything I'm pressing, but I don't see his pressing either, so I don't see why that stopped. I don't see Brendan Rodgers in his first spell wanting to press teams, but I'm just not seeing the cohesion between the team, between the players to go, right, this is what we're trying to do. We're maybe just not doing it right in time. It'll come in time. I don't see what they're doing, and that's the scary part. I still think, as I said, Brendan Rodgers will get it right and will be a success. But if I'm looking at we're not attacking teams and then we're getting left wide open. We're not pressing teams and then getting left wide open. We're sort of in between everything right now. We're not pushing up on teams. We're not sitting off teams. I don't know what we're doing. That's not to say it won't come, but it has to start looking like that very soon, because big important matches are on the horizon for us, and if we are going to go to Ibrox in a couple of weeks, it's going to be a patchwork team. And look, the injuries are not helping right now.
No.
Alistair Johnston coming in there takes away the Tony Ralston thing, and I know I'll defend Ralston, but he is a second choice right back at best. Okay, so if Alistair Johnston is in there, that's fine. If Carter Vickers is in there, everything seems better. If Hatate's in there, if Tillio's an option as well, then that's 4 players that are going to be on that pitch. So you take that out and you go, right, okay, but the players that are also playing can play well as well, and none of them are. There's not one player you're saying he's on fire. Like, again, the fact that we are chasing a goal in the last minute and we've got Turnbull and Haksabanovic in centre midfield. Kyogo's dropping to a sort of left back position to pick up the ball. You're asking yourself, what's the plan?
It's a question of recruitment. Recruitment is the most important thing at a football club, Brendan Rodgers once said. And
see, I disagree on that. Like, Celtic can go out and get good players, yes, but right, drop good players into a bad system or no system as it looks, it's not going to work.
So your position is it's a system. It's the manager. The system is implemented. It's no working just now.
I think it will come, but I need to see it. I need to see, right, what's Brendan Rodgers doing this time? Is it going to be possession based? Because see, if we were able to keep the ball at the weekend, I'd have been happy with that. But we couldn't string 3 passes together without losing the ball or players being what looked to me out of position or not knowing where to be. So while I'm still going to defend Brendan Rodgers, I still think he's a top level manager. The players out there were good enough to beat Kilmarnock, and I know like Celtic have lost games to Kilmarnock in the past. They've lost games to worse teams. You're not going to win every game, but at the same time, I need to see where this is going, and right now I don't. So if this was any other manager apart from Brendan Rodgers, who I know his reputation, I know the quality of the guy, I'd be really, really worried. At least with Postecoglou, you're going, right, we've had the Hearts game, but then we go out and beat somebody 5-0. There we go. And then the next home game we win, but we lose the away game. You can see, right, we just need players. We need time here. With this, we need something quickly, because I can't see anything.
People aren't going to like me invoking this name, especially after the weekend we've just had, where we saw him get his first win at Ange.
Beelzebub.
Yeah, but Ange, if we learned anything from him,
I thought you were going to say Neil Lennon.
No, he was on the telly.
I thought you were going to compare this to Neil Lennon. I thought, here we go.
He was on the coverage right enough, and everyone, I think, was like, oh, here we go, jinxed. Neil Lennon back involved, and we're losing games already. He looked sharp right enough.
I thought you were going to compare this Brendan Rodgers team to Neil Lennon under COVID or something.
No. The name's Bond, Neil Lennon. As they look sharp, in fairness. I've got a nice blazer and everything at the side of things. But if Ange taught us anything at all, it's that, and I suppose it kind of folds into the discussion we're having. The system, yes, you need good players, you need quality, all those things. I'm not going to disagree with those, but the system is king here.
Yeah.
The style of football is everything. You don't go chasing results. You implement your style of football that you believe in, and results will come from that. Ange said it repeatedly. I know people are a wee bit stung by it and keen to sort of dismiss everything the guy ever said, but these things are relevant forever, basically. A good idea is a good idea forever from Ange. What he said made tons of sense to me at the time, and I think it continues to this day. It's about in sort of implementing a style of play, an identity of playing football, and the results will come off that. It's not about, we won, it's okay, stop moaning, we'll move on to the next one. We did it again, we won, stop moaning, because this day against Kilmarnock was always going to come. It just felt like it all along. Again, right, I feel the need to keep kind of caveating things I'm saying, but I know it's early days. I know Rodgers is in essence relatively new in the door and all that, but we're at the cup. And again, it's not an entitled thing, but Celtic have won 7 of the last 9 of these cups, and we're out of it at the first hurdle. I think we're well within our rights to think, well, that's not what Celtic do. It's not the standard that is applied at this club. Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to say that, but you are right. See, if you win so many of them, that's something you should be defending pretty proudly. That's the cup that we win every single season. It sets a marker for the rest of the season. Mel, you said on the reaction that we did yesterday that it's the platform, it's the springboard for the season. You get that first trophy, and while the standard shouldn't always be we need to win a treble or it's a disaster, it's a failure. I don't believe that, but it's such a confidence boost for the season. People, the only positive I can take from this whatsoever, a mega positive, is that we'll save a couple of games now, because that's what's said about we'll get a couple of free midweeks off or whatever. But what you're looking at, the quarter-final draw was immediately after the game, so we've saved 3 games at most. I don't see that as being a particularly great boost for the season.
I mean, we're caveating a lot. Brendan Rodgers saying, we know he's this, we know he's that. Brendan Rodgers comes in and says to the players, doesn't matter what happened before, this is a new cycle of success. Forget everything that happened. This is about a new cycle of success. I mean, we're within our rights, are we not, to say to Brendan Rodgers, forget everything that happened before, this is a new cycle of success. If you're right, if you're giving the players a clean slate from 1st of June, then we can give you a clean slate from the 1st of June. You might be a bit harsh to do that, but you can do that if you want. I suppose the question about recruitment, Melly said something that was quite interesting to me there. He said, I don't think Yang's the answer, which brings me around to the question, we've signed somewhere in the region of 6 or 7 players so far. How many of them are solutions to problems that we've got?
Well,
2 probably.
Yeah, probably 2. But even that, I suppose Nawrocki was really just the one in, one out for Starfelt. Starfelt was the number 1 guy beside Carter Vickers. We've just replaced that. So if there are problems elsewhere in the team, then not many. I don't think we've solved many. Yang is, I think we're falling into the Haksabanovic trap with him because we've barely seen him, and it's not our fault. It's what we're seeing just now from Maeda and Abada isn't good enough, so we're automatically just saying, right, give that guy a start. Who knows what he's got, but may as well give him a start. Haksabanovic, basically, he has looked fleetingly good from sub appearances, but he's disappointed every time he's started. So it may well be the case with Yang as he adapts to life in Scotland, to the new style of football and all that. We just don't know. But how many problems have been solved by the recruitment so far? Not many, to be honest. The centre halves look all right. They look fine based on what we've seen so far.
Arguably our strongest position on the pitch now. Is that 3 good centre halves by the looks of it? 2 of them injured, so that's all 3 of them injured. That's
I know these injuries are really mounting up. Thank God.
We laughed at those Johnny Evans links earlier in the window, didn't we?
I know.
Should be apologised. Phil Jones, get him in.
Stephen Welsh signs a new contract and immediately breaks his ankle and he's out. To be fair, the Stephen Welsh contract thing is worth mentioning. I think a lot of people are quite happy to see him have a contract and he's good backup and all that sort of stuff. But for me, again, I'm looking at Stephen Welsh, David Turnbull and James Forrest, 3 guys who we all could sit here very confidently in May and say didn't have a future at the club. Stephen Welsh was linked away absolutely every day. David Turnbull wasn't playing, and James Forrest had a testimonial lined up. Even in Brendan Rodgers' first interview, he said famously, James, who's currently still here, which suggests he's on the way out, and now James Forrest is looking like he's got a part to play. So for me, I think the recruitment really needs to step up in the next couple of weeks. Now, I said at the beginning of the season on our reaction, by the way, patreon.com/20minutetims if you want match reaction podcasts to every Celtic match that we do. I said that I'm confident Celtic will get the recruitment done, and I'm sure they're working very hard in the background. But like I said before, Stephen, this is the chance, this is the gamble. If you wait to get your recruitment done, the gamble is you start losing crucial matches. And whether we like it or not, the League Cup is a crucial game. Yeah,
again, but I don't buy that it's going to take massive recruitment to get a job like that done. I just don't. I appreciate that it would have given us a better chance, but I don't know if making major signings would have helped that all that much.
I think because that's serious. That's pretty bad what you're saying. If we went out and spent, say we got Podence in for talking sake, someone at that level, you think you think the team is so disjointed, so unsure of what it's there to do, that even a player of that sort of level wouldn't have improved anything?
Yeah, I can only speculate on that because it's not the case. It's not literally the case. So I can only imagine what would have happened if we'd had a couple of bits of quality peppered throughout the team. But we get nothing out of Kyogo, really. We get nothing. We know these guys are brilliant. Kyogo, Callum McGregor, these are very, very talented players. Matt O'Reilly had a tame sort of pass back to the keeper. That was the biggest chance we had. Basically, there was one other from Yang. I know, in fact, that on that there was a couple of suggestions after the game that Celtic didn't get a single shot on target. I don't think that's true.
No,
the chances they did create were pretty pathetic, but it was bad enough that we don't need to rewrite the kind of match report of it. They did create a couple of chances. It is that they weren't particularly impressive. All these players are very good and should be enough to beat Kilmarnock. Now, again, I pay them the respect they're due. That's them beating Celtic, Rangers and drawn with Hearts. They've had 3 games outside of that group stage of the League Cup that happens earlier in the season, but the 3 sort of major games they've had, they've done very well. They haven't conceded a goal, so they deserve to be where they are. They've had a better start to the season than Celtic have, 3 games in. So I'm not taking anything away from them, but I think I can do both. I think I can say full credit to Kilmarnock. They set the team up very well, but Celtic should still be better than that. And again, the first thing I said on this podcast was, if it's just not your day in the Cup, that can happen. But what we saw from Celtic was pathetic, to be honest. It was just a poor performance, a poor showing. It's just lacking ideas, and the word that Melly used earlier on as well, boring.
Aye, that's see, to be honest, you know that would you rather be a prick or boring? Do you know what I mean? Like, I would rather Celtic were absolutely awful than boring, and that's one thing you didn't get with Ange. A lot of people I saw a lot of comments online, people comparing it to the St Mirren game of last season, but the St Mirren game, I know my memory's not as good as your Celtic, but to me the St Mirren game was in and around the same region of, did we know stick 6 by someday, we beat Rangers 4-0, did we know pump Hibs, like St Mirren was like almost a complete aberration. We were battering teams within that month of fixtures, and then the St Mirren game, everyone's like, well, what the hell happened there? Whereas as Stephen says, this Brendan Rodgers Celtic side, they've never really kicked into gear.
No, 7 goals in our first 2 games, and you're still at something's no quite right here, which sounds strange, but it's not the free-flowing football we're used to seeing. And even if we dialed back that free-flowing football a bit, you'd still think, do you know what, it's going to come. We're just not seeing it. The team just looks like they can be got at. The team looks like they can be bullied, and the team looks like if they're left on the ball, they'll probably give you it back at some point along the way. So we're just in between 2 styles now. We need to get it sorted. Look, there is time.
What do you think it's going to take to sort it? At the risk of just going round this merry-go-round about how bad the game is, we could try and be a bit productive here. From your watching of the game, your reading of the situation, what does Celtic need to do as a board, you know, as a club? What does Brendan need to do? What do the players need to do? Is there any players, individual players you want to single out to say, for talk's sake, Callum McGregor, I don't know what's happened to that guy. He's been man-marked out of games. He looks isolated in this new role. Does he just need to... Is it just a simple case of what I thought watching the game sometimes? You just need to beat your man, Callum. You just need to step up and beat your man. There's players on that pitch who are just not winning their duels. It's as simple as that sometimes.
Yeah, I don't think there's one thing they can do, but I think time on the training pitch, hopefully some players back and some players in, but that's not all going to happen before we go to Ibrox. So it has to be, players need to know what they're doing, and see if it gets to the point where it's not working, then that's fine. It's not fine, but at least we'll know we need to change something. But right now it just doesn't know. It doesn't look, that the players know, right, this is where I should be, or this is what I should be doing. This is my role within the team. I don't know what the fullbacks are doing. I don't know what the central midfielders are doing. The wide players, are they meant to be doing what they're doing and they're just not up to it? Are they just guys that you think you suited a certain formation and then that's it? But even then, Abada, I don't think suited the way he was playing under Ange either. So there's players out there that need replaced. There's players that need brought in. Time is needed on the training pitch to sort this. But Celtic, they need to find an identity. They need to find an identity soon. Yes, we won the first 2 games, but it wasn't as if you're going, right, they weren't the best results, but the performance, you can see what they're trying to do. It's the other way about. We're getting through games and not seeing the performance. But I always say, look, you can improve on performance, but you can't improve on results. But as Stephen said, the performance is what gets you over a season. Getting results is what happens in the first however many games of the COVID season. We were scraping by games.
We mentioned the COVID season twice. We mentioned Neil Lennon.
we were scraping by games in that, and you're going, right, it's going to click, it's going to click. I remember we were doing it under Ronnie Dyla as well, saying when we got to the semi-final, this team will turn up. We were in April expecting a team to turn up. It doesn't happen.
I think what's happening, you know, just to allay people's fears listening to the podcast, we're not saying this is the COVID team. We're not saying this is Brendan Rodgers' team, but what we are saying is things that are going, when teams are performing badly, not always does it just magically click in. It just doesn't always magically happen, because we have seen over the course of this podcast that sometimes teams start bad and continue to be bad. I don't think we're in that boat at all. I think we're miles off that. I think ask Melly a question, Stephen, what do you need to do to turn this around? What do you need to do to improve? For me, it's a question of recruitment. I think it's really, really that simple. I think Brendan Rodgers has implemented a system with players who are unable to do it. So he's looking for his fullbacks to do things he can't do. He's looking for his wingers, as wing players, as you said, Martin Melly, to do things that he simply can't do. I think 3 players tops. I think if he brings in another midfielder, if he wants one, in my opinion, he should be utilising a Tati when he's free and dropping David Turnbull. If he brings in a winger and he brings in another fullback to work alongside AJ, I think you'd see a dramatic change in that team. And if we can afford that, and I don't think it's too much to ask, another goalkeeper who's a bit quicker, a bit sharper at getting the ball out. And I think that's maybe what we need. Part of me wonders if this system we're doing where the goal kicks are all going quite short is because he doesn't trust Joe Hart with his feet, and we're trying to find a workaround, because we saw that under Brendan Rodgers before with Celtic. Some players couldn't, some keepers weren't that good with their feet and he'd try to do a workaround. I wonder if that's a situation.
Yeah, so if we're going to go with that line, if I agree there that what you said was true, and that he's got tools for a specific job, the players he is trying to mould into this system that he's trying to fashion with these players, if they're not suited to that, does Brendan Rodgers entirely carry the can for that result? Then we may as well say it out loud. Is he entirely at fault for that because he tried to do something with players who aren't capable of it? We can then say, we can do both. We can say that yes, he needs the quality in to do what he's trying to do, but if he puts a team out that can't get the job done on the day, and we're sitting here saying, well, he shouldn't have done that because those players can't do it, then he's basically entirely at fault for it.
I can game out a scenario here where Brendan Rodgers comes into the club and says, okay gang, here's what we're going to do. We're going to play 4-2-3-1. I need you to do this, you to do that, you to do that. Couple of training sessions in, couple of pre-season games, has a chance to look over the squad and sees that players are incapable of doing it. Goes to the board with a list and goes, see all this recruitment scouting you're doing, absolutely fantastic. I know you've got lists of players coming out the wazoo, players' names and draws, players all over the place. Here's what I need. I need a winger, I need a goalkeeper, I need a left back, I need a centre forward, and I need a centre half because Starfelt's leaving. And they go, right, oh boss, no bother. Meanwhile, Brendan Rodgers continues with this system, knowing the players aren't good enough, but hoping that they'll just get us over the line. Lo and behold, shit the nest versus Kilmarnock, and all of a sudden it's DEFCON 5 or DEFCON 1, whatever the most serious DEFCON is. And people like us are on podcasts screaming and shouting about it. And that is probably the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
My issue with that is they fucked around and found out.
They did. Aye.
That graph.
And as much as I'm saying that, I just wanted us to sort of put a fairly blunt sentence on it as Brendan Rodgers to carry the can for that. I do personally think that, and I do think that the players should be good enough to do better than that on the day, regardless of what they're... Even if they're...
Glad you said it, Stephen.
Yeah, regardless if they're slightly unsure of what their positions are, what their roles are, they haven't been told to completely really on the sport. They still know how to win that game against Kilmarnock.
Rigid as well. Just sorry to talk about, but you're right in what you're saying. Brendan, for example, could be saying, Abad, I want you to be my winger. I want you to take the ball, get to the byline. Every chance you get, take him on, get to the byline. After 3 weeks, you see he's not capable of doing that. So you take Abad aside and you go, here's what I need you to do. I need you were doing brilliant last season, coming in late at the back post. Focus on that. Matt, I want you to be on, I want you to go round on the right hand side, or you can do a workaround. Whereas I think what's confusing us is it's mistake, repeat.
Yeah, and you asked me about recruitment there, or what can be done to fix it. I have been fighting back. I have been pushing back about that, against that slightly on this episode so far, because only for one specific reason. I just don't want that to be the thing. I don't want it to be the pitch or the ref. These are all factors, yes, but I've just the headline is Celtic weren't good enough to win that game at all. So what I don't want to be sitting here even implying is that Celtic need to go out and spend 25, 30, 40 million to get a job done against Kilmarnock on a Saturday afternoon. I just don't think it's the case. However, I'm not dismissing that entirely. Can I just shock you? I want new players, despite what I said earlier, is what I'm getting at. I think we do. Clearly, I mean, if you're going to be fairly simplistic about it, if you're going to basically just break it down to its very simple parts, are we better now than when Ange left? Categorically no.
I'd be amazed. I will be amazed if this window shuts and we're better than we were last season.
Well,
absolutely amazed. And the F around and find out, because I don't want to hit the swear filter on the podcast. The F around and find out is the graph is getting tighter and tighter because we're effing around a lot more, and we're going to find out, because we've got, as Melly said, on the horizon, if we do a lot of deadline day business, is the Rangers game not a day after, 2 days after deadline day? So we could feasibly be bringing guys in, having one training session and meant to be playing against Rangers.
The Willow flood.
These could be crucial positions.
Yeah, but at the same time, say we did say, was it 3 players you said you got in? So if you got in a better left back, a better goalkeeper and a winger, we kind of are better off, are we not? Because we've kept everybody apart from Jota. We brought in Starfelt and lost Starfelt, but brought in 2 centre-halves, both of whom look better than Kobayashi and Welsh. So you've improved there. If you've got a better left back than Greg Taylor, that's fine. You've kept your midfield apart from Moyenbot and Home. It's only Jota.
Well, hold on. So if you want to take the graph, you want to take the quality as a whole, right? I think replacing somebody the quality of Jota, finding somebody better than Jota, is going to be near impossible.
Yeah, so that's where you look at last season and you go, right, where do we need to improve? The places where we needed to improve pre-losing Jota still need improved, and we need to get somebody in for Jota now as well. And this is the sort of problem when you get into this transition and it's becoming a 2-year thing rather than maybe you get 3-4 years out of a team. It's probably went down to 3 years and now to 2 years. This cycle, players are always going to leave Celtic, and when we've got a new manager coming in, there is more upheaval, isn't it? And you didn't bank on like guys like Starfelt, Moy, Jota. There's no way you'd have thought you'd have lost all them. So you need to replace them and go out and get better players. It's very difficult, but that's what's the way Celtic are. This is what's going to happen all the time for Celtic, so be ready for it. And I know what you're saying, it's frustrating because you bring Brendan Rodgers in, he comes in and you think, a lot of people, myself included, thought, great, that's the best guy we could have got for Ange Postecoglou, probably the least upheaval. He comes in, he knows what he's doing, let's go out and get him in there. But there was people that didn't want him back, and I completely understand that. So try and negate that by bringing in players and making it feel as if this is new, this is Brendan Rodgers' thing.
The money to do it, we're wadded.
Yeah, aye.
We're extra wadded after
It's
Jota
just
went.
not happened, and you need to ask, why is everything taking so long now?
It's a complaint Ange had as well, isn't it? Ange, when he came in, said things take too long, transfers take too long a bit, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's basically what it did for Dom Mackay, wasn't it? That brought about the end. Well, one of the key factors in bringing about the end of the Dom Mackay era, gone but not forgotten Dom. But yes. Ange was blunt about it. He was very. I think we all loved that at the time. What a breath of fresh air this is, actually telling us that this transfer strategy isn't good enough. It's taking far too long. I wanted my players in weeks ago. Brendan Rodgers isn't literally doing that, but he's telling us now. He's very subtly telling us that he needs quality and quickly. No,
it's not very subtle.
No, well,
there's just an assumption that Celtic can't do it, right? But I get it, but I am not fully subscribed to the idea that you cannot get quality into Celtic Football Club until the last day of the window. I'm just not fully subscribed to that. We saw echoes of it under Ange, where we're bringing players in the January to replace the ones that are going. And part of me just thinks if Ange just had an iron grip on absolutely everything there and forced the issue a wee bit and things have settled a wee bit. And I hear it, Melly, that was a groan of discontent, so let's hear it.
No, it's just thinking back to last summer. We brought in Jota and Carter Vickers, but after that, there wasn't any real quality that was brought in that cemented a place in the team. It was all players you thought, do you know what, they might fit in. Jens didn't work out. Haksabanovic didn't work out. Abelgard. We haven't really brought MD in the past year that cemented a place, apart from Alistair Johnston, because Juranovic left. So Celtic were in a state where they needed to make signings to improve the first 11, and we're still in August, nearly at the end of August, and we've not done that at all. Centre halves, yes. So while I'm saying, look, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, have we been really good at bringing players in? It's because it's looking back at it, it's the January of Ange's first season where we really brought in players that made a difference. Since then, we've had a couple in 2 windows, and now you're looking at this window going, this will be 3 windows that if we don't bring in real quality, you need to look at it and go, what's happening here?
We've discussed the frivolous stuff, Stephen. Let's get the important stuff. That pitch is a disgrace.
The pitch, the strips, the camera.
The strips was a really bizarre one. We've got 3 strips and we couldn't find an away strip to wear on the day.
Aye, we're going to end up with another season where you wear a third kit once or something like that, twice. It'll be once, and then the away kit will be twice or something like that. So that was the perfect opportunity to wear it. I don't know why they didn't. We've
got a black kit. It would have been perfect.
Especially there's so much white on those strips. Obviously, one's green, one's blue. Absolutely, there's so much white, and then there's that weird glare off the pitch, which makes it look white. It's just it's an unpleasant.
Do you know
watch,
the joke people make about? They just hoover the pitch. They do.
Yeah,
I thought that was a joke. They literally hoover the pitch. I saw somebody with Henry Hoover it getting it once over after the game.
I think I don't want to make the pitch an excuse. As I said,
would you ban them from the top flight plastic pitches?
I would. I mean, given the choice, if it was me, if I was made director of the world of football, then I would say yes, get rid of those. But I appreciate that it's probably more complicated than that. Is it not about some weird system in the Netherlands where the top three basically pay? They sort of supplement the lower teams.
How much can it cost? Just get it done.
I know. I don't know what it is. I would get rid of them because I feel like that old cliche. I think was it Brendan Rodgers who said it first time around. He's never seen a good game of football played on. It was someone anyway. Someone sort of made that comparison that you just don't see good games. And I know that people might, if you're really sort of put off by that excuse, I get that, and I'm keen not to use it too much because we do play on these fairly frequently. It's at least half a dozen times a season, maybe, if you draw one of these teams in the cups. We get Livingston or Kilmarnock. But you think that Greg Taylor's used to playing on a pitch like that because he played them years ago.
He grew up on one.
So he's used to it, and we play on these a few times a season. But I don't know if there's such a thing as getting used to it because Kilmarnock will play on it a lot more frequently than Celtic. But the point of these plastic pitches, to me, granted, I'm not a professional footballer, right? But they should be, but I'm not. Right, to me, it seems like it's not the fact that it's different to grass that makes it difficult to play on. It's that it's unpredictable. In many ways, you can't really get used to it because you see the Kilmarnock players, they're sort of misjudging the bounce of the ball and stuff like that as well. So it doesn't make for a great spectacle. Again, I don't want to use it as an excuse, but Celtic should have been better on the day. But there is I wouldn't say it's a leveller. I wouldn't say like, plastic pitch, that means Celtic and Kilmarnock are completely equal. They're exactly as good as each other. That's a lot of garbage. But does it take 5, 10, 15% off the quality of Celtic and the style of play they're trying to play if they're trying to get a slicker passing game? Probably. So there is that element, but it's not the level that it's made out to be, I don't think.
The ref had a shocker as well.
Yeah, see the penalty shout in the last second.
I don't understand why VAR didn't get involved in that. I'll completely lost what the VAR rule is.
It does. So VAR checks everything, but it didn't deem that a penalty. So that must be what it is.
So it was the VAR. So the ref missed it. So just so I'm clear, because I'm not too clued up. So the ref misses it on the day, right? But then the VAR room have a look at it and they decide not worth checking to the referee.
Yeah.
Mental. Absolutely mental. Because
we go live to Donald Finlay, QC, in the VAR studio. What's your decision, Donald?
Because the penalty at Ibrox, not the one Rangers got before people pile on, but the one awarded against them was, to me, near identical with, was it Cifuentes who put his foot out and made contact with Kirk Broadfoot, who fell the opposite direction from the force. So he was tackled from the front but fell forward ever so slightly. That was valid and deemed a penalty. So it was the contact, the type of contact, and that challenge to me was identical to the one from Haksabanovic, but they didn't invite the referee to watch it. Is that what happened?
Yeah, so to be fair to the terrible ref, at first glance I thought, that's get up, Haksabanovic, what are you doing? Like, he just looked like he flung himself down. You see the replay and you go, he's caught him right in the ankle there. Now, it does look like a stonewaller watching it back. It didn't look like a stonewaller at the time. But it would have been harsh against Kilmarnock, but at the end of the day, it is a penalty and we didn't get it. How VAR didn't look at it and go, do you know what? He has caught him in the ankle. That is worthy of the ref at least looking at it. Is baffling to me, absolutely baffling.
But I'm sick of this. I can't go another season of this. I can't go another season of us sitting doing Super Varia World and being baffled by refereeing decisions. Is clarity. There's no reason Celtic lost the game.
No, Celtic was terrible.
But the season has literally just kicked off, and already we're back to this crap way, going, why did VAR not intervene? Why does VAR intervene sometimes? Can someone explain that to me? I don't understand. It definitely was a penalty, but it was missed. At the end of the day, that's a penalty. The ref and the VAR missed it.
I like what Melly said there about how, you see it live, you see it in real time, it doesn't really look like a penalty, but when you watch it back, it does look like a penalty. Literally their job. That's exactly what VAR do. That's their sole purpose, is to watch things back with more information, with better angles, with slowed down replays, zooming in and all that. See, if the ref does miss it, that's fine. Literally what the VAR's there to do is to pick up what the referee misses on the pitch.
Missed an elbow to Greg Taylor as well.
Aye, that was the Armstrong one, but kind of went down holding his ear. It wasn't that tough an elbow. It wasn't like he was in any danger of knocking him out or anything like that. But he did lead. He did sort of stick it out. He definitely sort of led with the elbow, and he kind of swept his leg out from underneath him as well. So it was quite a bad challenge, and that's exactly what led to the goal. Again, seems like an excuse, but I don't think it's unreasonable to point out that we conceded a goal from a position that we had a missing player who was off getting treatment. We conceded down Celtic's left, and that's the only goal of the game. And Greg Taylor was off getting treatment for a foul he suffered, and the game just plays on. So it feels a bit unfair.
The issue with me over VAR is the communication about it. The communication over how VAR intercedes with the game and intersects with the game and how it works and who's to blame for what and who's responsible for that. The SFA, in my opinion, need to appoint somebody wholly to be in charge of VAR decisions and refereeing communication. And I've got just a guy, David Tanner. This guy... Scotland's wet blanket, David Tanner.
Oh, love me Rangers.
I know.
Oh, give me a job on Rangers TV. Pathetic.
Every time there was a penalty awarded against Rangers, he goes, I hope this shuts the Celtic conspiracy theorists up. Why, David? Why would it?
Do you remember all his tweets about COVID and all that as well, about how Rangers deserve a party as long as it's safe? They were all partying in the streets during COVID and all that.
He tweeted, what did he do, a couple of weeks ago? He's tweeting about buyers walking about Glasgow, taking a photo of all the cracks in the pavements, going, this used to be a great city. Look at the state of it. And an absolute sweetie wife. So
it's one of those guys that just spends all his time online pining for a time that didn't really exist. Everything was better back in the day.
He wants a job in Rangers TV. That's exactly what he wants. He was interviewing he was punting his master's course at some university, but there's still time to sign up for my master's course. You're teaching people things. You absolute nerd. We've covered all the important things,
right?
Just a thing where we're discussing VAR and the referees. Do you know the image that's going about where the line for the VAR couldn't, like, it was crossing over, it sort of went, rather than a straight line, it crossed into the Celtic player and down his arm. I think I know why that happened. I think that line is generated by a computer. So the freeze frame and then the computer adds a line, right? Mm-hmm. But I think because the strips were so similar, the computer couldn't tell what was a Celtic player and what was a Kilmarnock player, so the line went squiggly over the pair of them. I think that's how bad the kit clash was.
So that goal might get chopped off if we'd made a better kit choice on the day. But if we'd worn the away kit, like we said...
It's a beezer, no?
Aye, then that would have been
we've released a kit 2 weeks ago, a third kit that we're trying to sell.
Probably never will wear it.
Unbelievable. Listen, is there anything else to cover while we're sat here?
No, I think you mentioned Stephen Welsh earlier, and it might seem harsh because I think we're always harsher on players that are playing rather than ones that aren't, and you could probably just, if Stephen Welsh is playing as much as Tony Ralston is, we probably would be as harsh on him as we are. But Tony Ralston, to me, I don't want to just go back and start laying into players, but he kind of sums up that performance. Him, Abada, Maeda, Taylor and McGregor were probably the worst offenders on the day. Tony Ralston is a guy who started to strike me as see if he played for Motherwell, you wouldn't sign him. He's probably the guy who would come across, he would come onto your radar. Honestly. And then you would let him sign for Preston North End for £1 million or something and just probably not take up a chance. But Stephen Welsh signed a new contract. There were a few grumbles about that because I think people don't really want to hear about it in this window where we're all grumbling about sort of the quality coming in and all that. But I think Stephen Welsh makes sense. I think he probably deserves a wee bit more recognition than he gets because we talk about this loyalty and all that sort of stuff. He's been linked with several Serie A teams and teams on the continent quite a lot, but he's happy with his lot at Celtic for whatever reason. I'm surprised by that. I think he probably should have left, if I'm honest, because he's made 50 appearances in his career at Celtic, made his debut in 2019-20, but I would give him credit for just being that guy who's a relatively safe pair of hands. He's never going to be the best defender Celtic have got, but he does a decent job. He came on against, was that Aberdeen last week, and he was the best Scottish player on the pitch for Celtic anyway. He's seen several defenders come and go, and he's always just that third or fourth choice guy, and he does a decent job. So I think that makes sense. I don't know if we're ever going to get a fourth choice centre half who's better than Stephen Welsh, to be honest. It made sense to extend his contract. He seems happy here, and I think that we claim to value that. So we want managers and our good players to show loyalty. But guys like John Kennedy, and I get him out. He's turned down clubs in the past, but I get him out. Stephen Welsh, get him out and all that. So I obviously been facetious about that. There's no comparison between John Kennedy and like Jota and Ange Postecoglou and Kieran Tierney and all that. But at the same time, we claim to value people who value being at the club. And I think Stephen Welsh seems to come into that category.
Sound, lovely sentiment. Don't buy it for a second. And I appreciate you. I respect your opinion, Stephen. You're welcome to it. It was a handsome opinion. However, what I will say is Stephen Welsh needs to get the finger out. He's played what, 50 appearances for Celtic in 4 years. We are out here paying 5.5 million, 4 million quid for players that are younger than Stephen Welsh. So Stephen Welsh needs to sort of buck up his ideas a wee bit. We're buying players in that are younger than him to play ahead of him. So if he wants to sign a contract and be fourth choice centre half for the rest of his Celtic career, so be it. But at Celtic, I want players who are striving for a wee bit more, and there's no excuse. And I will toss Stephen Welsh a bone here and say he might have come to Celtic and went, I've been here since I was 4 years old, eating every dinner you've told me to eat, eating every breakfast, I've to follow every instruction your coaches have given me, and the best you can do is offer me fourth choice. I'll take it. but you know, so as much as I know people are like, oh well, that's good that Phil's a quota and he's fourth choice. Nobody starts a football career.
I'm not interested in the quota thing. I really,
I've seen that though. I've seen a lot of that. He Phil's the quota, but all I will say is, look, he's here now. Best of luck to Stephen Welsh. There's no reason now not to kick on. A new manager and all that sort of stuff. So Brendan obviously deemed Stephen Welsh worthy of the new contract, Melly. But for me, it's not a red flag, but it's a beige flag. It's a beige flag to see Stephen Welsh return to the Celtic team, just as it is with Turnbull and maybe James Forrest.
Okay, I'm fine with Stephen Welsh signing a new contract as well. I think if you are going to have that fourth choice centre half, then perfect. A guy that's came through the ranks, a guy that doesn't really do too much wrong when he plays, and he would have started the game at the weekend if he hadn't been injured, and rightly so probably. So again with him, you're saying, oh, he's not playing, but a wee injury's got in the way here. Apparently a freak accident at training meant he's missed out on it, so he probably would have played here. He might have played next week, so he might have thought with Cameron Carter-Vickers out, look, this is my chance. There's two new guys in here. I can try and get my place here and then go for it under a new manager. So I have no problems with it.
Well, that would be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. When's the transfer window end?
It's basically the same day as the Champions League draw, the end of August.
The end of August. So there's a couple of weeks to go, a couple of podcasts to go, but there'll be plenty more on patreon.com/20minute-tims where you can support us. Check that out. If you watch us on YouTube, please subscribe. But most of all, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.